and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight. We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what power hides, and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight. We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what power hides, and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight. We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what power hides, and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight. We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what power hides, and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight. We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what power hides, and spark national debate. Speaking truth to power, from the grassroots to the highest offices. EMV, tonight.
Amitapendwa ya vintu ifisume vyote kula kuivukisha Anade potimo Wimbo watemenwa katongi Abazunga batita katongi Nakula kuivukisha kateka Aibugu muna kapona Neseko siove pamenso Yangu ama umebaya Iyaba Iyaba ume Iyaba ume Iyaba
Kateka wabantu Twakulira, lelo twakulira Shika kukonga nke milimo shore.
Ale filamba yena minta pengo sile eti kumemo kulondolo la vale lilo wingi
Iseko wingi mwakwete Iseko wingi mwakwete Mwaya mwende wino tata wesu
Katushi muchi wakege Wali bomba kale Kamba mwatuja tuleli lake Upangana chiba
Benda Upanga mwine Kaya mwine Ide lalila
Yangu ya mama Ala nacho mwabye Mama
Wonderful Monday and welcome to today's broadcast. Today we are hosting long anticipated special guest, Mama Dolika Banda, Miss Dolika Banda. She's an international banker of many years, decades, and she's also a financial analyst. She's sat on numerous boards, local and international. Today we're privileged to let her inside her life and her political pursuits. She will help us first analyze the state of our country, the state of our leadership, and is she throwing in the hat to pursue the presidency for the 2026 elections. All this will come from her. We have her in the house already, and just tune in. Share the broadcast. Is the volume okay? Is the picture okay? Where are you watching us from? We are on TikTok, we are on X, we are on YouTube, and we are on Facebook. And whichever page you are on, share with your people, your friends, your close persons, so that then you can analyze the state of our country together. We are looking for solutions to our country, and it's better as many of you are watching as possible. Miss Dolika Banda, welcome to today's broadcast. I've been pursuing you from day one.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And finally you caught me. That's tenacity.
It's never too late. It's only God's time. It's never too late.
Exactly.
Let's begin this way. Tell us, who is Dolika Banda? Take your time and just tell the nation who Dolika Banda is. You are such a performer across the world, but there's very little information written about you in our own country. There's very little knowledge about you, yet you are such a successful woman. Let's start with there. Who is Dolika Banda?
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, and thank you to the viewers who are going to take the time to join us this evening to hear my little story. I'm very grateful for the you have been persistent in trying to reach me, and it's a true pleasure, an honor, and privilege to be able to address the audience, Zambian and non-Zambian. I am sure you're so widely followed. Dolika Banda, my goodness, where to start? Let me start with the fact that I am truly Zambian born and bred. I think because there is so little information on the ground. Some have called me a foreigner, some have called me a diaspora, some have even asked, does she even live in Zambia? Does she even speak any of our languages? So just to dispel those myths, I am very Zambian. I am born of a combination of Chewa and Ingoni. I am also brought up of a combination of Achengo, Angoni, as well as a Bemba on the one side. Family issues happened, and I ended up living with my uncle, who was married to a Bemba woman, who became, to all intents and purposes, my second mother. I always tell people I was raised by two mothers, my Ngoni mother and my Bemba mother. So traditionally, historically, nene mungoni. Amama nakwasoko, atete nzachikutuparamba. On the other side, I was brought by Hope Mwansa Makulu. Very Bemba. That's my other side of the family. And so, yes, this is who I am. I was born in Chipuwu, in Ndola. When I was still quite young, my parents moved to Lusaka. We went through different places. We lived in Kanyama, then lived in Libala, and eventually ended up in Roma. So that is as Zambian as it gets. At 10, due to family circumstances, my father passed away in a car accident. I was taken in together with my 5 siblings. We had 3 boys and 3 girls. We were taken in and raised by largely my father's side of the family, amongst the different siblings of theirs. And I ended up going to boarding school at the age of 10 to England, which was a privilege and a gift from God, is the way I see it.
Miss Dolika, the tragic events, your father passes away through that terrible accident, while you are 10, and you are taken in by another family, which is normal in African settings. In fact, we didn't have words for orphans because there was always someone else to take up the responsibilities of parents. Now, this family that took you in, you can't speak about it casually. I think you need to spend time. Who is this uncle of yours who took you in, who literally the two became your parents?
Okay, so this uncle of mine is the fourth president of the Republic of Zambia, late now, of course, Rupiah Banda. And his wife was Hope Mwansa Makulu, and then Banda by marriage. So they basically became my parents. I always say I've experienced the loss of a father and the loss of a mother twice, because when my father died, RB, as they say, became my father. And then when my mother died, my biological mother died, I was cushioned by having my Auntie Hope as a mother. There was a continuation. It's truly when I lost these two that you feel the loss. And to your point, Emmanuel, I never felt going into that family that I was unwanted, that I was a nuisance or a variable that had not been planned for. I truly felt embraced, as did my siblings. We were embraced by that family and the various siblings, which I think is one that we should talk about when we come to talk about where are we as a nation 61 years later. I have some social concerns, and I would love us to touch on that. You
Okay.
may want to hear about the influence that had on me, but we can tackle that.
Well, this is a
differently.
conversation to come naturally. So take us through your school and college and work, then we get to the meat of the debate.
So my first school was Mkandawire then, in Libala Stage 2. And then I was transferred to Northmead. And at the age of 10, I then was sent, RB and the family moved to the UK. He went to do his further studies in Cambridge, and I went with them. And so I then stayed in school in the UK then I spent a stint at the convent before I went to the UK, which is now St. Mary's in Kablonga, very short. And then went to the UK and stayed in the UK until pretty much I was 24, 25, and I came back and I worked for Barclays. But I was always coming home. RB insisted that we had to come home twice, at least summer holidays, as they were called, and over the Christmas holidays, if we could, so that we do not forget where we come from. So that was my schooling. The UK was interesting. I was young. I was one of, I think we were about 5 Black African children in that school, 2 Nigerians, 1 Malawian, myself, and I forget the 5th one. And so the bullying was there. I think people talk about bullying now, but bullying was there in a boarding school, largely predominantly white middle-class children. You had to prove yourself. And I remember the first year saying, this will speak also to my character. The first year was cries and cries every weekend when you were allowed to call your parents. And RB, as we all know him, his answer to me was always, this is the way of the world. The only way that you can compete with these children is to be better than them intellectually. Let them be the person let you be the person they go to when they need to get an A in a class or in a particular subject matter. That was a little bit of toughening, but it has seen me well through life.
Oh, wonderful. And that carried you well through like you're saying, the harassment probably could even have been racist because you were in UK. But your professional life, how do you then transition when you were done in school? Did you go to university or did you dive straight into work?
So I started working whilst I was still at school, actually. I was doing an internship. I'll tell you an interesting story, since this is my life story. So when I finished my O-levels, we sat down with RB, and when I say my father in my later years, I truly mean my aunt and my uncle. But as I have said, to all intents and purposes, they're my parents. So we sat down after I finished my O-levels, and he said, so young lady, what are you going to do? He says, and I kind of hesitated. And then he said, okay, I'm going out. You 2 ladies, you and your mother figure out. When I come back, let's have a conversation. So off he went, and we sat with my Auntie Hope, and we said, okay, it's a combination of fashion design and interior design. This is roughly 1975, 74. 75, 76. So he comes back, so what have you ladies discussed? And I said, fashion designing and interior design. He shook his head in a manner that only people who know RB closely can imagine. And then he said, right, I'm going out with the boys. And when I come back, I'll tell you what she's going to do. Because clearly between the 2 of you, you're not able to make a sensible decision. And he came back and he told me I was going to do banking. He said, if you do fashion design, it's iffy, it's uncertain. If you do banking and you do well, you can always go back to your fashion design. And that is how I ended up in the finance world. And from that time, I used to work at Barclays. I worked at Barclays for the summer holidays. I did Barclays Longacres. I was from cashiering all the way to accounting. And then I also worked for Barclays in Cambridge. And that's how the love for banking and finance came.
I see. So you started your career with Barclays at the time.
Barclays, Longacres, and I was not paid. And I was not paid. And you know, you're young. You're young, you're home for the holidays, you're working, your friends are playing. And at the end of the month, everybody gets their envelope. It was actually distributed in envelopes those days for part-time workers. And I didn't get anything. So I went to the office of the manager, Longacres. It was Peter Armand. I will never forget his name. And I said, Mr. Armand, there seems to be a slight mistake. And he said, what's that, Dollar? I said, I haven't been paid. And he said, oh, didn't your father tell you? He said, we're not supposed to pay you. So really upset and angry, I went home. Of course, that picked me
Oh,
up
so
from
this
work.
was internship.
It was an internship and I was not paid. And I worked so hard. I always try to work hard at whatever I do. So when we got home and he came home eventually, we had this conversation about why I wasn't paid. And he said, but why should they pay you? What are you bringing to the table? You're an intern. You have nothing. You're learning at their expense. You have a home. We take you to and from work every day. You're fed. Why should Barclays pay you? They are doing you a favor. That was another big lesson.
Wonderful. And so did you take up any university education, or from Barclays you began your path to these international financial institutions you've worked for?
From Barclays, I actually then went and did my master's, because that incident was just when I had finished my A levels.
Okay.
So after that stint, I then went to do my BA. And I ended up doing that in Cambridge. It used to be called Cambridge College of Arts and Technology, and it is now called Anglia Ruskin University. So I ended up getting a BTech, as they call it, Business and Technology diploma. And then I came back to work formally for Barclays. And I worked for Barclays for a number of years. And then I was sponsored by Barclays to go to the UK to do a full degree and master's. I did that, and then I came back and I worked for Citibank. So then from Citibank, it became pure finance. And from there, after Citibank, I was actually then I came back to Barclays. After Citibank, I did a stint from Citibank. I went to do my master's. Then I came back to Barclays. And for whilst I was at Barclays, IFC was recruiting for the region. And they approached me. They didn't have an office here. They had an office in Zimbabwe. And they approached me and ended up working for IFC, which was the longest serving employment that I had in Washington, D.C.
Your brief role internationally, IFC and others, speak to that quickly.
IFC was about 16 years and I'm trying to remember, you can see the
And what is IFC for our audience?
IFC is International Finance Corporation. It is a private sector arm of the World Bank Group. So IFC does, the World Bank deals bilaterally with the government, with governments and sovereigns, but also does policy work. The IFC is the investment arm of the World Bank. So it truly is an investment house. I started off in treasury. I started off in accounting because they hired you in pools. So I started off in the accounting department, and from accounting, I moved into the treasury department, and then I did a full 16 years from the accounting all the way through to special assistant or vice president, which is a glorified secretary. And then I became director. And after, yes, I spent 2 stints in South Africa, still with IFC, went back to Washington, D.C., and the highest level I reached was director for Africa, as well as Latin America in financial markets. So, quite a broad experience from the accounting back office, as we called it, to the glamorous world of financial markets where we did the real deals, as we used to say.
Africa has a love-hate relationship with these Bretton Woods institutions, IMF and World Bank, and you worked for the commercial wing of the World Bank. Why do you think there is criticism for the World Bank and IMF looking at their role in Africa? And some policies seems to have gone wrong for the sister organization like IMF when they did the structural adjustment programs in the 90s. Where do you think World Bank and IMF get it wrong? And have they learned anything over the years?
So, and Emmanuel, I'm going to tell you something because I have an eye for spelling. I can see they said banker and financial analyst. So the financial is wrong. But people who know me well will tell you that that's exactly Dolika. She'll pick up something like that. But back to the real question. I learned a lesson very early in life when I went for an interview. And it was at Citibank. And they asked me about my experience of working at Barclays. And I said, well, it grew me and I learned a lot and so on and so forth. And the guy prodded and said, so why did you leave? Didn't you like Barclays? Was there something wrong? And I said, no, sometimes it's time to grow and you move on. And he said, that's the perfect answer. I would not hire anybody who criticizes their former employer because you will do the same about us when you move on. So with that, let me answer your question. I struggle trying to understand why countries do not graduate from the ambit and the arm of World Bank, IMF, etc. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. And that's part of the reason I have arrived at the decision that I have today, which is why we're having this conversation. And that is that when there are two parties to a conversation, each party has got to come to the table from a position of strength, a position of negotiating hard, a position of negotiating in the best interest of their country. I think very often we go to IMF, the Bretton Woods institutions, as you called them, almost in a state of desperation. And therefore they dictate. They don't think they're dictating. They think they're telling you what's best for your country. But only we know what's best for your country. And I do think it's not easy. I've been in some of those meetings on behalf of other countries. It is not easy. But there is room to negotiate harder than we negotiate. There is room to put our people first, priority. And it's not a conversation about poverty reduction for me. I've always fought with the statement. It should not be a question of poverty reduction. It should be a conversation around industrial development, economic development, social development. It should be a question about empowering rather than about a question of that word and that language of poverty. It's the same like jobs. Let's create jobs. What exactly is a job? Is it a quality job? Does it help to shift people from one state, the lowest possible state socially, and give them that hope, that opportunity, that dream that they can move up the echelons? When we are a population of 22 million people today, 14 million of our people, or 65%, are living under $3 a day. In 1961, or 62, when we became independent, whatever it was under $1 or whatever, I haven't done that calculation and I have to now, we still lived a better life. Today, our lives generally have deteriorated in terms of quality. And so I think we need to reorganize our approach to the Bretton Woods institution. They are doing what they think is best, but are we actually preparing and presenting our case in the right way?
Yeah, you started with a disclaimer, so I'll not go very hard on you. You're saying you never criticize your
You can.
former employers.
can.
It's courteous. But you know the criticism in Africa is that these are pursuing and still posturing a neo-colonial agenda against Africa. Look at the decisions they decide on our behalf. Whether it's in the mining, agriculture, or any other sector, they seem to promote multinational interest. But
And Emmanuel,
we'll
if
leave
I
the
may,
subject for
we
now.
know that. We
Where
know
else
that,
did you
right?
work? Because I was just fascinated when you mentioned the World Bank, and I'm one of those strong critics of the Bretton Woods institutions, and I think that they can do better. They can allow homegrown solutions than they just come and collaborate and help. But then say, sales Anaco, sales Zesco, do this. But that's a story for another day. Where else did you work before we begin to discuss the state of our country?
Okay. So before I go there, I'm going to go back and say, I'll piggyback on the statement that you made, which is we know that. It's evidence, it's out there. We know that the Bretton Woods institutions, based on outcomes and impact, are not serving us well. So if we know that, why do we keep going back and swallowing it?
Yeah.
Should we blame? It's a little bit like violence, right? Let's talk about gender-based violence. Somebody is being beaten all the time, and members of the family says, "Mwebantu fumeni ko baka mwipaya palasti. Awe ndeikalita abana. Awe chupo. Awe kweba mayanda." Somebody has got to get up, and the only person who's going to get up and fight against injustice is the victim.
Is it possible? I love the violence analogy because it doesn't make sense how a partner in an abusive relationship remain there. They are being rescued every day, either by the police or family members. They are being hospitalized. They are hiding the violence against them, but they go back. You see them in church together. So it's a paradox. Can Africa do development without the IMF and World Bank? What's been your reflection over the years?
My reflection has been that we live in a global world. So there is no country, there is no continent that can develop, grow without being integrated into the rest of the global economic cycle. What we can do within Africa which is being done now through AFCA, the Africa FCTA, a number of things, is to actually be able to trade within ourselves, within the continent. There's a few things that have to happen. I just saw, I think it was yesterday or today, that Burkina Faso has dropped all visa requirements for African countries. What that means within the West African continent is that they can truly trade in a much freer way. They've always been into trade in there. So I think trade is one thing. Why I need a passport that takes a visa that takes a whole page out of my passport to go to Ghana or to Nigeria, I don't know. Those are the things that hold us back. Let us move freely. Let us allow our people to move freely. It's not always criminals who cross these borders. It's also industrious, entrepreneurial, business-minded, challenge-spirited people who will take advantage of this thing. That's number one. Number two, for southern region, particularly the southern region, there is a rail system. And I know now the governments in the region are talking about revitalizing that rail system so that which will be revitalizing, rebuilding in some cases, new building, but integrate travel through rail that will take trucks off our roads, that will
not to disturb you, Miss Banda.
Sorry,
in 2018, I was privileged to have been at the African Union. We adopted the African Union protocol on free movement of persons, and our colleagues in West Africa have done very well. They use the same passport, they freely move without a visa across ECOWAS, and we're trying to roll this out. And we had pushed two documents, the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area, this FCTA you've referred to. And we said it's not possible for goods to move freely without the people moving freely. So we had now this protocol. And but you should see the resistance we received from ministers of Home Affairs, the past and the present. The present Minister of Home Affairs, for example, we had done well with Stephen Kampyongo. We even held a huge civil registration international conference in Zambia because the big issue is identity. Who do you allow to cross your borders? Is your passport credible? Are your documents credible? That's one issue. So Africa has to resolve, first of all, the issue of identity. So we're moving very well. But when the new government came, and before we begin to criticize anyone, the Minister of Home Affairs issued a very, very strong statement, Honorable Jack Mwimbu. And he says, no, we can't go. We can't allow free movement of people. We are surrounded by countries, literally in a disparaging manner, DRC, Angola. We can't allow free movement of people. And I realize, I think people haven't understood the ethos that Africa is pushing. You cannot be trading with the rest of the world up to 90%. Yourselves, only 10%. There's no interconnection between the countries. We don't allow, in fact, it's easier for me to go to Europe than go to the DRC. So I was just buttressing your point that there's a lot of things that have to be done at policy level and also on the understanding by our people.
I think that's a very fair point. And even with all of that, our borders are very porous. So with or without that whole open passport arrangement, Zambia's borders are extremely porous. If you just need to look at our societies today, how many people we have living from the highest societies to the compounds, as we call them. It's an integration of Africans from different parts of the world, or from different parts of the continent. So sometimes you can cut off your nose to spite your face by not dealing with an actual issue. Our borders are porous, and there is no control. So you either do it in a legitimate manner, or you encourage illicit behavior. Again, just going to your point.
Yeah. The state of our country remains a matter of worry. In 1964, when we took over from the colonial authorities, we had substantial foreign reserves. We are among the three top economies in Africa. We're far richer than Singapore, South Korea, even China, GDP per capita. We're better than many countries. But 61 years later, we are among the 6th poorest countries in the world. We are among, again, the top 10 most unequal countries in the world. We are bottom in everything. The number, the statistics on unemployment, on poverty, on diseases are not good. We are just bottom. What went wrong? In your analysis and dealing with development and development tools all the time in trying to help countries across the world lift themselves out of poverty, where do you think we went wrong? What did we do right? What could we have done better?
Yeah, that's a painful one. And this journey, I keep telling people that it's a journey that comes from being brought up in a home where politically, as all politicians, some may have loved him, some may not have loved him, but we knew him as a father. But even as a father, he consistently and constantly instilled in us a sense of responsibility. And that sense of responsibility was, for me, translates to this question. Have we done, as you said, almost 61 years later, If that young cabinet, freedom fighters, they were young, they were aspirational, they had big and bold dreams for this country, for my generation and the next generation and the generation after that. Can we honestly stand today and say we have done and honored the service of those founding fathers and founding mothers? I personally, and I think I speak for many, I would not be the first to raise my hand and say, Mr. Kaunda, Mr. Chona, Mr. Wina, Mr. Kamanga, Mr. everybody else, and then the ladies, Mama Kankasa, Zeni Anjovu, and so on and so forth. I would not be able to say, this is the country you dreamed of. I would be ashamed to stand in front of them, because I am a product of this education system, this health system, this housing system, this social system, this cultural traditional system, this economic system. I am a product of that. Until I went to boarding school. There are some who didn't go to outside, like I had the privilege to go. They still look like me, walk like me, stand like me, think like me, dream like me about this country. We're a product of those. And so we should have done better. We should have done better. You asked me what went wrong. I'm not a messiah, but let me take a stab at it. I think economically, I think even that first group were great as leading us out of colonialism. Maybe they stayed a little too long. Theirs journey was a journey of fighting for our freedom, holding us together, one Zambia, one nation. And up to a certain point, I think the economic side of things, they reached their point of what should I call it, where they couldn't carry it anymore in the 70s when oil prices crashed, copper prices came down. Maybe they didn't have the appropriate skills to manage those crises. Nonetheless, we could have built on that. So I think economically, we went from a beginning that was, Zambia was industrialized, huh? And I don't think we should say it was Kaunda's policies that went wrong. First of all, it wasn't Kaunda on his own. It was the policies of that era and the unique crew. Those policies were not wrong. It was the management of them, the leadership of them, and the governance of those institutions that after a while started to deteriorate. So many of us will remember Mwinilunga was pineapple, Chipata was bicycle. I don't know what
Just to support you there, in fact, in Southern and Eastern Africa, other than South Africa, we were the most industrialized and the most urban country. We were doing quite very well, actually.
Yeah. So somewhere, something went wrong. And I think it was the management, Emmanuel. I think it was the management. We had Livingston Motor Assemblies. Lusaka had textiles. It had different things. So every province was an economic hub of some sort or other. Southern, we had sugar, which is still there, but every province had an economic hub around which it was anchored. So even the urbanization that you see today, had that been properly managed and properly structured and so on and so forth, we probably would not be suffering the urban poverty that we're suffering today. The heaviness on the infrastructure, water, electricity, that we're suffering today. So for me, it was a lot about somewhere along the way, mismanagement. Whether it was deliberate or intentional or just by sheer naivety, I don't know. But today we know that governance, leadership, vision, building upon a foundation, these are the things we should be thinking about now. This is the conversation we should be having. I look at the papers, our conversation is around individuals. Oh, so-and-so has done X. Oh, so-and-so has done X. We are so preoccupied, and this is not a generalization of everybody. I don't mean to insult anybody, but generally, even I find myself when I'm reading the newspapers that there's very little substance that is discussed in those papers. By comparison, pick up a Kenyan newspaper. And what you will find is analysis of the financials and so on and so forth. We need to change the way we're looking at this country. I love this country. And everybody who's on this call is on this call, not because they love Dolika, maybe they hate Dolika, but because they love Zambia and they want to change the narrative. They are interested and vested in seeing where do we go from here. So whatever went wrong along the way, Emmanuel, we have reached a point where we are very well aware of what can go right. We're not even able to ride the copper price today, the commodities price, cobalt copper, because we allowed industry to just stagnate over the years. We need to plan, we need to have a vision, and we need to do contingency planning as we go along. And we need to make use of every talent that we have in this country, or that is Zambian talent outside of this country. We have incredible people, incredible knowledge, but because of some of our thinking, generally across the years, over the years, we would rather put somebody in a drawer because they don't come from the right tribe or whatever it is, I don't like them, than use them to build this country. We have to change our narrative and our attitudes.
Indeed, I admire what China has done. Look, they were among the poorest countries just 30, 40 years ago. Today, they are running the second largest economy in the world, and they've lifted over 500 billion people out of poverty, and they've built remarkable infrastructure. They've the most modern passenger public transport, they've the best buildings, and they've become a manufacturing hub for the world. They've overtaken everyone that was highly industrialized, Japan and others. There's something they adopted other than stringent leadership based on meritocracy and the proper system. You might criticize their socialism and communism, but they seem to have been very strict. And then the adoption of the participation of the private sector in their economy seemed to have been a spark to bring that massive development we see China and this growth. In your perspective, have you thought about what the participation of the state should be? Should we own the mines? Should we share ownership with, for example, the private sector? Have you looked at the role that Chile is playing? Because agriculture and mining will remain our mainstay for a long time. But what have we done? We seem to have squandered the opportunities that are there in those two key sectors.
Look, there are certain countries that I truly admire. China, of course, is one of them, and they combined sort of social capitalism and food sovereignty is what I call it, as one. So it was as much about the people as it was about industry, as it was about feeding the nation. And they continue to do that, by the way, which is why they're acquiring tracts of land in this country, amongst others. So China is a big one to follow. Singapore is an amazing one to follow, Lee Kuan Yew. Dubai and now the United Arab Emirates, another strong one to follow. Taiwan. What was the leading thing there was, what strength do we have and what strength do we not have? So what weaknesses do we have? Let us play to the strengths that we have. Sometimes it's just intellectual capacity, the children, the education. Chinese education, even today, the children are learning motor skills, so they don't have time to go outside and play. They are doing sports for focus, for physical fitness, nutrition, motor skills, computers, construction, every little bit of industry that China is good at, they're teaching them in kindergarten and primary school. But if you see what is common amongst all these, number one is a truly visionary leader, sometimes called crazy. Mao Zedong was called crazy. Deng was called crazy. The UAE, grandfather to the current or father to the current, the Western world said he's crazy and he's doing all this on debt and what's going to happen. Dubai was a 23-year project, 23 years, from sand to the first skyscraper. And Lee Kuan Yew, they sent their people to the Western world to learn the skills. It was reverse technology. They came back and they invested into their country again. So there has to be a strategy. That strategy has got to be anchored around the strength that is naturally endowed, which for us is minerals, mining and minerals, metals, etc., and agriculture, as you've rightly said, massive land, small population. I think we should not ignore tourism. These three can change the fortunes of this country such that we can become under $3 a day to even under $10 a day. We have a $30 billion GDP today. We need 80 billion to 90 billion to put us at $10 a day if we remain at the current population. So I think planning, visioning, playing to your natural strengths as a country.
You've just said something very remarkable there, that our GDP is under 30 billion and our aspiration should be in excess of 80 billion. Because even if we double it to 60, we still will not make a dent. In fact, China and Singapore, sustained economic growth of 10% consistently for 30 years to see what we see. Have you taken time to read our national documents, our national development plans, whether it's 4th, 5th, 6th, we are on the 8th, the visions like Vision 2030. Have you taken time to look at our national documents? That should be the basis of our development. I find them very understated. Our ambitions are very little. Let me give you an example. We are in SADC and we are at the center literally of Southern and Central Africa. We are surrounded by 400 million people and we are landlocked. I'll use landlocked. I know people want to use landlocked, but we're a landlocked country. But our aspiration is to grow for food for 20 million people. And then we cry when the food is taken over across to the DRC. It's just inevitable if there is a large population in Lubumbashi and they are not farming, that they'll look for where the food is. We are deploying ZNS to kill our people who are trying to sell 3-4 bags. Instead of thinking that instead of planning on our agriculture sector to grow food for 20 million people, why don't we plan to feed the entire region, 400 million people? Look at Ukraine. We got to war. They got to war with Russia, and the food prices are disrupted across the world. One small country that have half the year in snow grows food for the rest of the world. What about us? Have you looked at the national development plans, and what is your view about them?
I have. And I was on a call yesterday and somebody said, Ms. Banda is dreaming in a pretty sarcastic way. And I said, of course I'm dreaming. We have to dream. We have to dream big and we have to dream bold. And we have to dream like we've never dreamt before, because you don't want to be sitting where we're sitting today in another 5 years or 10 years. So, look, the development plans, yes, I've looked at it. I actually think fundamentally the desire is correct, but I think even if I look at the policies, our national policies, just for example, the ones that govern the municipalities, those policies apply. It is the numbers that you attach to. It is the vision that you have around them. It is like we just said. I think we are agreed. Let's be proud of a 6% GDP. It is proud if you look in retrospect, because you were at 3% or at 2%. But there's nothing to be proud. I said this in my TED talk, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. There's nothing to be proud of about a 6% GDP when your population is growing at the rate that Zambia's population is growing. We need to look forward and say, if we want to be at 80 billion or 100 billion in 5 years' time, what do we need to do today? One of the things we need to do today, Emmanuel, and audience here, is for Zambians to be given the opportunity to take ownership of what drives this country. Industrialization, manufacturing, services in the mining area, in the agri area, in the tourism area. There are very few Zambians who actually own businesses in these areas. And if we don't want these monies that come from these industries or these sectors of our economy to fly out of this country as dividends, as business expenses, then we need to put them in the hands of Zambians. Let me give you an example that a friend of mine, a banker, said at some conference that I went to in Livingston. He said, you look at the Nigerian banking sector, it is owned by Nigerians. So even if they make $10 million a day, the dividend is going to stay. Some of it will go to buy their houses in London and wherever, but a large part of it is going to stay in Nigeria because they are Nigerians. They have homes, they have relatives, and so on and so forth. In our case, you look at most of our industries, cashew nut growing, macadamia nuts, avocado, potatoes. You look at the mining industry. You look at the tourism industry. Tourism, most of the money is paid outside. Most of our lodges are owned. Lodges, I mean the really big lodges that generate the $500 a night lodges. Many of them are not owned by Zambians. The money is not even paid here. The booking is done outside. People, I have no problem with this, right? I have no problem with this. I'm just saying we need more Zambians to be allowed to enter that space. And in many countries, that sort of participation is facilitated by government. It is not free money, but they are given incentives. How many Zambian business owners have been given incentives to do their business? Tax incentives. Very few.
Yeah, correct.
So
Our economy is literally owned by foreign entities. There was something that brought an array of hope that because you have a foreign-owned economy, you need to control their proceeds, especially for exports, especially the mining sector. So in January 2024, the Bank of Zambia came up with an export proceeds tracking framework. And they said all these companies must form a local company where all their export proceeds must report first. We were all excited that for once, maybe someone will see that the new exchange rate can be stable, cannot be volatile. Because you'll have all these millions of dollars. For example, from the mining sector alone, gross revenue is $7 to $8 billion a year. Of course, the first institutions to disobey this regulation by Bank of Zambia were the mines. They disregarded it. And we have been very strong. There's a gentleman called Yusuf Dodia who's been berating even the Minister of Finance to say if there's any way to begin to stabilize our economy, it's this framework. Just support it and make sure there is total compliance. Because if you have an economy owned by foreigners, all the proceeds go abroad, and they'll just remit to you very little money for your salaries and recurrent expenditure. That's why you will see the exchange rate will always improve around month end, because the mining companies are doing us a favor. They are sending back their little monies to pay salaries and all. But imagine if their monies reported to our country as envisioned by the export proceeds. So I agree with you there that there's something fundamental we need to do with policy. But we seem to have policies that just favor these multinationals and foreigners. Our people never get any incentives. They never get anything. What's your reflection on that, and what must we do?
I think it's a policy change. Like you said, let's take mining as an example. Zambia, as currently positioned financially, does not have deep enough coffers. Companies. A shaft, just one shaft, you're talking upwards of $10 million. We don't have, at the moment, that kind of money. So it's a transition period. At some point, we need to get to the point where an IDC or a DBZ in its forms originally planned can actually support at that high level. We're not there yet. And again, I want to be very clear. Any country that is integrated into the global world today needs international partners. It needs international investors. Zambia is no different. And in the extractive industries, particularly, which are extremely expensive, we definitely need the mining companies. I think it's a question of how we negotiate the agreements with the mining companies. Not only do we negotiate the agreements, so part of getting a mining license is having a development plan for the area in which you get the license. Those development plans are not followed through or enforced. So you get CSI or CSR, corporate social responsibility, when you really should be getting very serious, tangible, visible economic upgrade in the area in which you operate. I go back to Kaunda, and I don't want people to think I'm referring to Kaunda because I
I've
love
personally called that a fraud. You have you have a sector, a subsector or sector producing up to $7-8 billion, and you want to rely on corporate social responsibility. They'll build a community school. It's just $5,000, $10,000, but what's $5,000, $10,000 out of $7-8 billion? You need to tax that money. You need to ensure that the revenue comes to your treasury. You can't rely on corporate social responsibilities. And it is just a joke. See what they've done in the last 20, 30 years that they've owned the mines. And see the golden period when ZCCM owned the mines. They built hospitals, schools, township. They brought electricity and water. You could say that was corporate social responsibilities. But the joke we've seen in the last 20 years, I don't think that it can work for us. We have to find, in my view, mechanisms in which we can truly get money from that sector.
And that's where I was going, and I hope you heard when I was saying, I keep referring to Kaunda not because I think he's better than anybody else who come along, but because I think the vision of that generation was so forward-looking. So taxation doesn't always work in a country situation. People are very clever at how to avoid taxes. However, what did that generation do? Build us schools, the Mpelembes of this world, the Lettres of this world. Build us roads, Luansha, Chingola, known as the cleanest cities, most beautiful cities in Africa in their time. Build us clinics, build us houses. So there are some other ways of getting value out of this. Even the schools that we're being in Pelembe today, most professionals that I meet today, especially in mining, are Mpelembe graduates. Give me scholarships for my young Zambians to go and study mining, which is a critical part of our economy. So not only did we have ZCCM, as you've described, Emmanuel, but we were building a skill set that was around our strength. Remember I said play to our strengths. We were building miners today. Zambians are mining and engineers all over the world. When we were looking for a CEO for ZCCM, when I chaired ZCCM, we had people from Australia, South Africa, Canada, Switzerland, mining engineers, geologists, metallurgists applying. And I thought, my goodness, we were looking for a Zambian. So I didn't appreciate how many talented, skilled, trained Zambians we have. And the scholarships they got were not to have schools, they were to Imperial College, to the School of Mining in Wales. They were top-notch schools. So there are different ways of getting value. It is not just tax. I just wanted to say that. That's what we need to explore. What else can we do? How else can we get a piece of that of the top line of the revenue?
The picture, before we go to the next phase of our discussion, which is we've identified, I think, policies, we've identified leadership and leadership failure. We now go to solutions, what needs to be done. And like you said, there are many people who know what needs to be done. But first of all, they're excluded from the political process. The environment is extremely dirty. The players are ruthless. Currently, we are not doing very well. We've degenerated to a dictatorship. Institutions such as Parliament, Judiciary, Electoral Commission of Zambia have all literally been hijacked by the executive and by the president. You have people living in exile, like myself and others. You have human rights abuses. We are being cited every day, something that was not there. We are not sitting pretty. We are making news for wrong things, witchcraft, or the biggest outbreak of cholera. We are not sitting pretty as a country. Clearly, there's time to change. And people like you appear to be drawing the line in the sand. You are comfortable. You probably have one of the best pensions. You can live across the world, but you are coming back to Zambia. And you think that there's something you should do for our country. What is motivating your decision to come and enter this environment? You can be arrested. They can brutalize you. They can abduct you. They can close you out. Your first start with another political party, probably, we don't know what happened. You can shed light. You will face a very, very dirty environment. Have you thought about that? And what is motivating you to pursue these political pursuits?
I've thought very deeply about it, Emmanuel and listeners. Some people say, was it an easy decision? Initially, my reaction was, no, it was not. But now when I think about it, absolutely it was. Why? Because I am so in love with this country. As you have rightly pointed out, Emmanuel, I could have lived anywhere else in the world. I still can. But I have chosen to live in Zambia for the love of this country. It is where I am fully complete, has always been. And I don't want to be an economic refugee anymore. This is where, when you look at Zambia, for all of us, I think that's why we're even having this conversation. It's an amazing country. It's an amazing country. I drive a lot around this country. I prefer to drive because you see people that are so industrious. You see nature that is abounding beyond measure. You can cross borders without hitting any major mountains or anything. They're just nicely viewable. The food is great. Our people are maybe too wonderful because then we have allowed ourselves to almost become a minority in our own country, and that's no issue with foreign people at all. I come from a family that's a rainbow nation, but it's just to say our lot has got to change. So for love of this country, I felt, and love is not, it's just easy, it just happens. You will encounter issues along the way, but it's the love for the country that keeps you going. That's number one. Number two, I believe in a French, or an expression that comes from French nobility that is about noblesse oblige. Noblesse oblige in those days talked about, without being derogatory or looking down on people, it put the obligation on nobility, the landed, the privileged. It put the obligation on that group to look after the people that were below them. So it's a noble obligation, if I can put it into English. There's a lot of that in me, and that comes from my upbringing. In our house, both in my parents' house, my biological parents, and in my adoptive parents' home, people came first. We would not go to bed until everybody in that yard had eaten, from the head of the house all the way down to the garden boy or the guard or whoever. Everybody had to eat. And we didn't cook for anybody in a separate pot. Everybody ate from the same pot. So that sense of giving back and being responsible is very strong in me. Number three, I have a huge family, Emmanuel. I have a huge family, and you can imagine it's doubled the size of the family because of my upbringing between these two different homes or families. And so not all of them are going to cross borders and go to England. Not all of them are going to go to South Africa. Not all of them are going to go to the US. In many cases, we're not even wanted in those countries unless we're coming with a check. And so you think, am I forever going to be the social system for my country and my people? No, that can't be. And the statistics, that's number three. Number four, the statistics you mentioned. Zambia was a beacon. It was a beacon in the 60s through to the 70s of the region. We were involved in the freeing of South Africa, of Zimbabwe, of Namibia. We were the first and continue to be a country that transitions governments and leadership with no bloodshed. We have so much that people envy about this country. We were the beacon, the example of good. And I have seen that deteriorate. I've seen it deteriorate economically, socially, politically. Our social system is broken down. I have in my family, and I'm not the only one, several, not one, several nieces and nephews who are using drugs. They are bunking school. We had one death in the family, 32 years old.
Oh, Miss Dolika,
drug
the
related.
scourge of drugs, and for me, that's my frustration. We don't seem to be paying particular attention. The drugs are stealing an entire generation of young people. And like you are saying, we are all either affected or, personally dealing with it. The trouble is no one seems to be dealing with the matter. We have DEC that's just preoccupied with something funny. No one is arresting the drug scourge that has invaded our country and is stealing our youth. And coming to the youth, we are a young country. We have the youth bulge. The biggest dividend should come from our young people. There seems to be no youth-focused programs. If the youths are the majority, then the youths carry the burden of the country. What are we doing to resolve the issues around young people? What are your thoughts there?
There are.
Because for you, the
Yes,
World Bank, credit to you, for the World Bank, I love their theme that young people should be either in school, in work, or in entrepreneurship, but they should be occupied, because lack of that will, for example, bring the drug scourge we are dealing with, where we have family members that are junkies.
Yeah. Look, the demographics, you're right. The demographics speak for themselves. I think 66 to 70% of our 22 million people can be classified as youth today. There are some programs that are happening. Some of them are government driven, but the majority of the good ones are actually private sector driven. And my view and one of the plugs I will make as I run this race is to scale up. We need to scale what young people are already doing. So I have a small scholarship for STEMs, STEM students going to the Africa Leadership University in Rwanda and Mauritius. Those kids are brilliant. They are brilliant. They are coding, with girls coding, the guys creating apps. One of them is doing a financial app that can, you don't need anything to do your financials. You can do it on your phone. The banks have them, but nobody's scaling that up. For example, we have state-owned banks. We have ZICB. Zanaco is no longer state-owned, so we can't really speak to that. ZICB should be the bank that is encouraging our young ones who are tech savvy to say, come, let's do a competition. What can you do for ZICB? Things like that. Government has to be seen to promote. Somebody was reminding me the other day that in our generation, there was JETS, the science fair that used it was a competition annually on technology and the sciences. The other day I was reading about Nsokolo, the one who wanted to take us to the moon. People laughed at him and thought he was crazy, but hell, the man was trying. He had a vision. He thought he could do this. Those sorts of things we need to encourage. We need to encourage. I don't even encourage our youths to be yes, they should be in school so that they get through that basic education. I want to see young entrepreneurs. They are there. What we do see on the streets, yes, is the wasted part of that generation. But if we've pushed the ones that are there openly, trade fairs, things, science fairs, and you finance. Sometimes you have to do some subsidies as a government. It's very interesting to me that we swallow no subsidization for certain things that our fellow people who are throwing it down on our throats are subsidizing. Agriculture is an example. I go away from the youth, but even the youth in agriculture, we must encourage. And there are those who are doing it already. Let's find them. Let's shout to them that we are ready for you and we will give you the access to finance, the access to support, the access to mentoring and training, and we will give you the access to markets and exportation. We should feed enough, we should grow enough, do enough to feed our own people and to export around this region that you so rightly said, surrounded by eight countries. So if you have sell a lollipop for $1, you're looking at a population, you're looking at 200 million plus dollars. We have to think differently about where we are.
Thank you. We'll go for a brief break, drink some water. When you come and tell us your now final journey, this last race, this last mile race that you want to do to pursue politics. Why are you not standing as a councillor or as an MP? Why do you want to go for the presidency? Why? What vehicle will you use? And what's the role of the opposition? Will you join them in these alliances? I'll come round. Let's take a short break, drink some water. And for you, the viewers, thank you very much. The numbers are growing. Don't be selfish. Share. Alert. Share. I think this is an important broadcast. We have Rupiah Banda, an international banker, international financial analyst. She sat on many boards. She has decided to pursue politics and probably participate in the 2026 elections in the form of likely the presidents, but we'll hear from her what she will say. And so share the broadcast, let as many people as possible listen to this and listen to the debate. So we'll be back just in a while.
So we urge our citizens that they remain calm. We can see light at the end of the tunnel, and that tunnel is now becoming shorter by the day. As we speak, we now have unprecedented rains in the last maybe 2 decades. And with those rains, yesterday Cabinet was informed that load shedding is likely to begin to diminish by June 2025. This is because the major water catchment areas of northwestern province into the Barotse, plains, and now also the Kafue, flood plains. Water takes 3 months journey to move from Kaleni Hills, from Chavuma, into Victoria Falls, into Kariba. 3 solid months. Water moves very slowly in the plains because it's flat. This water which you see when it rains here in Lusaka, we are going for work at ZNBC. Then you find that water is running fast. It's here in Lusaka. But the water needed to change the electricity situation or the water level situation in the Kariba or Kafue Gorge, upper and lower, or Iteshiteji, moves very slow because once it gets to the plains are flat, so water velocity for overland flow of water is reduced. And that is why the experts have said they have not yet done a full measure because they are waiting for the water. But their projections from their readings at their reading stations in Chavuma and Victoria Falls, and I think there's one in somewhere in the Western Province, indicates an exponential rise in water, but they are not yet speaking with certainty because they believe in empirical data.
I'm also aware of the electricity problems that Zambia is facing. But despite the problems that we have with the supply of electricity in Zambia, you still supply us with electricity. Again, you would have said, we cannot sacrifice our power when we have shortage. But you still give us. Katima Mlilo town, where I come from here, is supplied with power from Zambia. When you have a power outage here, we also have power outage. But that's the brotherhood we are talking about, the neighborhood we're talking about. And we should only be grateful and continue to exist in this manner. You spoke also about the Bulls Bay dollar.
Or the water level situation in the Kariba, or Kafue Gorge upper and lower, or Itej moves very slow, because once it gets to the plains are flat, so water velocity for overland flow of water is reduced. And that is why the experts have said
as the UPND government, we promised in opposition, we are delivering in government. No question about it. Now our honor and privilege to declare this fifth session of the 13th National Assembly officially.
Thank you. Welcome back. I hope you took some water and we can get back. Now, indulge us in this particular decision you've taken, the race you wish to embark on, the challenges around it. First, you need a vehicle, you need a political base, you need branches, structures across the country. Will you join a political party? Will you buy a political party? Will you stand as an independent? Just indulge us in this before we go to other matters.
Thanks very much, Emmanuel. And thank you. The spelling has been corrected, so my eye is not disturbed anymore. That's great. Look, I at the moment, I have not settled on which mode to use. As you know, there was in the papers something I don't even want to dwell on now. I think we're better off using this time to have some discussions that are forward-looking. But the search is still on. I don't have a platform yet. The alternatives are indeed, as you have described, join another party, go independent. I think when your moment is your moment, it's your moment. I am not intimidated about the usual things that intimidate. Oh, you don't have a party structure. Oh, you're too late to enter the race. You know, we are very good at discouraging. That's the point at which somebody said Rupiah Banda is just dreaming. But if I'm part of the dialogue and we can have a conversation like this and we can challenge this kind of conversation, then what's so dreaming about that? You know, when you have that passion, go for it. Don't worry about the person who's telling you it's too late for you to do your PhD. No, if you've decided it is in you and it is driving you and you're feeling really passionate about it and you feel you can make a significant change, a significant message by doing that, then go for it. And this is where I am at the moment. This journey has started. The train has left the station. I don't have all the pieces together. What I do have, Emmanuel, what I do have is that what is in my heart, what is in my vision, and what is in my mind to do. And with that, I'm going to give this place the best possible chance that I can. And at the end of it, I'll be able to say to myself, Rupiah, you tried it and you won, or you tried it and you didn't. Let us recalibrate.
Good mindset. When you hear, now you have to get involved with the state of our country, the state of politics. You have to follow daily trends. The president just played a video there and he just delivered his national address. His last address is a fifth session address a year before we go to elections in August. He gives a hopeful statement that the country has a right leadership, is on a proper trajectory. He says statistics like the country is growing at 6%. He's fixing issues in the mining sector, agriculture. Tourism numbers have jumped from 500,000 to 2.1 million. We seem as a country to have arrived from their perspective. But of course, our narrative the last 60 minutes demonstrate otherwise. It appears we have two realities. One, that the narrative that government is pushing, or figures and numbers that have no common relation with our people. And they need to change. In fact, many people are saying the next year's elections are so serious and fierce that it will be like getting independence afresh. Some young people are calling it independence 2.0 because we had independence 1.0 in 1964. The state of our country is worrying, but the people in charge of this, don't see the crisis that you and I and most of our people see it. The UPN will say we don't even need to change. They are saying, in fact, Ichilema should stay up to 2090 because he's doing the right thing. When you hear that narrative, what's your reflection?
My reflection is, first of all, I listened to that speech and I read it. The historical celebration, I think, allow people to celebrate. They have shifted GDP. They have shifted the production of mining, not as much as one would have hoped, but it has shifted. The piece that I was very interested in is the forward-looking piece, what they will do in the next 5 years if given the mandate. And that piece is, I think, what we should hold people accountable to. How are you going to do it? How quickly are you going to do it? What KPIs will you use to measure progress? Will it be weekly? Will it be monthly? Are you going to publish it so that we, as private sector, we, as citizens of this country, are able to go onto a board and say, this KPI has been reached, this KPI has not been reached, and you tell us why. It is to hold accountable. The past is the past. I'm not going to dwell on that. I want to see a country going forward where we do what we said we would do. This is important. We get promised all manner of things by administrations, current and prior. And it is a question of how are we going to hold people accountable? And for me, this is dependent on two things. It is dependent on our citizens taking ownership for their citizenry and our rights to go and ask a councillor. What I was in Kalikiriki. The garbage heaps. We are living in two worlds, Emmanuel. You're right. We're living in two worlds. And when you live in these two worlds with the kind of gap that you have, 14 million people who are hungry and probably angry out there, we are not safe in our glass houses. We're not safe. We need to deal with this situation. And for me, that address and the forward part of it addresses the social ills, and I want to be convinced that this is going to be delivered upon. And the only way that that can happen is the second way. So I mentioned citizenry. We have to ask for our rights, people. You don't have, I don't know why we are so proud that we have an injection for cholera, a vaccination for cholera, and I forget the other thing to do with cholera. Cholera is just, the source problem is filth, unhealthy living, dirt. Let's attack that. Why are we not picking up rubbish? And why, when we do pick up, are we allowing people to create dump heaps? You drive to the Eastern Province now, you drive to the Southern Province, because I go Livingston, Botswana, etc. As you drive, first of all, things we never used to see, the trees have been cut, coming all the way to the road, and all you see is dumps of rubbish. Why do we live like this? This is about us as citizens as well. This is not a government issue. Government should hold us to account when we do that, but we should hold ourselves to account. When I was growing up in Libala, my mother used to win prizes. Number 13 Musuki Street, for those of you who know Libala Stage 2, used to win prizes for a good garden from the council. Where did that go? When did we become so uncaring about ourselves and about other people? So the citizens, we've got to look inside our hearts, and we've got to send this message in our families, amongst our friend circles. It is not okay to throw paper wherever you feel like throwing it. It is not okay to do imbabula Notuntemba, on the corners of residential areas. It's not okay. There's a part that is in us, there's a part that says, how do you then expect me to make a living? That is the question we should be asking ourselves as citizens. And then take it to government, say we need this reform. The second part of it is the opposition. Opposition parties have got to now start playing the role of opposition.
Yeah. Thanks. Another matter before I invite callers, and I want you to listen to the callers and their views. Callers, you'll be participating in this program before we allow Miss Rupiah Banda to go. She's already been with us 1 hour, 30 minutes, and she's done a wonderful job. But it's time to hear from you. Before I allow the callers to come in, the state of our country, other than the economic, social, and the bitter politics, toxic politics, when you scan social media, you immediately see the division that is in our country, the anger. And I love your assertions of 14 million people, because that's to the extent to which our poor people are. If you have poverty levels as high as over 60%, you are not sitting pretty. The other percent, you are not well, because the country can go to flames immediately. And hence this question I have, the division and the lack of unity in our country. We seem to have thrown away the gains and hard work of President Kaunda, who put us together into a one Zambia, one nation. Like Lee Yuan Kwan, he even began to design how we should marry one another. I say this because if you Tumbuka, you are Ngoni, and you finish grade 12 and you are being employed in the civil service, as a young person you were sent maybe to Northwestern Province, to another province you don't come from. The intermarriages were planned by Dr. Kaunda. He literally engineered the national unity. It was a project at the core of national development. We seem to have lost that. The polarization, we are not even embarrassed to appoint one of our own. When every time I criticize President Akainde Hichilema for appointing someone who I think is from the same region or tribe or family, the people say, no, he's okay, he's qualified. So what's wrong? They're Zambians. They've forgotten even the ethos of bringing us together. The inclusive, but deliberate inclusive part. Dr. Kaunda used to deliberately even balance all appointments, whether they were in diplomatic services or whether they were in ministries. What are your thoughts about our national unity?
I think we have fallen too much into the hands and narrative and discussions and vagaries of the political play at the top here. As Zambians, we are united. In my family, Emmanuel, we have Lozis. I have my nieces and nephews. I have Lozi, I have Bemba, I have Tonga, I have Tokalea, I have, of course, the whole bunch of the Eastern Province. And so for me, it's very difficult to say, I don't like this tribe or the other. But we have allowed this to become this big cloud that is now hanging over our heads. And I think it does a disservice to the people that we are, to the country that we are. And I agree with you. It was called tribal balancing in the professional space. That is professional movement of civil servants. And that's why we ended up having Rupiah Banda, Musonda Tembo, those kinds of things. Somebody will tell you, oh, I thought you were Bemba. That's not, it doesn't change our lives. And we must stop and we must think very seriously that perceptions, what has happened today, whether someone is qualified or not qualified, and some are my friends, my very dear friends from childhood, and yes, they are qualified, but perceptions when you are in a country with 73 dialects, the predominance of a single group in obvious offices, that just makes perceptions not acceptable, makes people start to think all manner of negative things, results in conflict that we don't need to be having when we're trying to grow our country. And this is on both sides. if somebody's qualified, let's leave it. Time will come when other people will come through and so on and so forth. I'm an Easterner. People say, but Easterners, you've had your chance. On the member side, I get it, but I remember they've had their chance, so it is now our turn. And I think we need to get away from this mentality. Zambia is one. Zambia is one.
I agree with you. We are united as families, but we've introduced tribalism, regionalism, nepotism at political level, where we are giving these opportunities that should be fairly distributed to all countrymen, in abusing that issues of tribe and region. And even our politics, political parties are arranged around regions. We truly need to come together, that the political party should have a nationwide appeal, looking at just on your merit. So let me invite callers, and let's hear what the callers will say. Callers, it's time for you to... Madam Dorika, I didn't ask you. The Attorney General says Zambians are just lazy. And you said something very fundamental. You said Zambians are industrious. Wherever you meet them, they are somehow working. And I will bring you in to come and answer this. But this man says Zambians are just lazy. They would rather eat well. And he put it in a general term that Zambians are lazy. He holds a very senior position. He's an Attorney General. You expect him to apologize or his bosses to reprimand him. The matter has gone quiet. Let me take some calls. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from, and kindly be brief.
I will remain anonymous.
Anonymous?
Good evening, Mwamba.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Good evening, Madam Dolika. Congratulations on your intentions. We're very happy, super proud of you. I have two questions for you. You highlight recently about the dirt in Lusaka. We're looking at Lusaka today, the traffic. You visited Kalikaliki, I visited Mtendere, and it's the same story you're talking about, the dump sites. What plans do you have? The congestion, Lusaka will be bigger in numbers than it is today, and the country at large. What plans do you have for population? How do we contain the population? We cannot go on with the traffic today. What plans do you have? You are also very keen on to seeing the younger people prosper. You have spoken very highly of them. What are you planning to do when it comes to energy? Thank you very much.
Okay, callers, please, this is your time. Please call. Do not call at the last minute when I'm about to release Ms. Dolika Banda. Call now. You have the numbers on the screen, and let me hear your contributions. So we'll just take various calls. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador Mwamba. This is a fantastic interview. Good evening, Dolika.
Yeah, she can hear you. Yeah.
I've got only a few questions to Mwamba. I'm not going to stay longer. Yeah. Dolika, you mentioned about, and by the way, you seem to know what you're talking about. And I believe it's ideas that build the nation. And you've got fantastic ideas. So you talked about IMF. You work for World Bank. You talked about IMF and just about you talked about negotiating with the IMF or the World Bank in the best interest of our country, and that's patriotism. On the current debt restructuring, do you think it was done in the best interest of the Zambians? And if you were the president, what were you going to do? Any alternatives that you could have done? And then second, African Union. You talked about Africa. Africa is not united. Not even SADC is united. You know, and at the moment, African countries are actually joining BRICS, and they want to join the currency instead of talking about African Union and having one currency, what do you think should be done? If you became a president, what should you do, to make sure that African Union becomes a reality? Because it's been going on for over 60 years now. And then my third question, you talked about the mindset, of Zambians. We need to change our attitude, our mindset. As a president, what would you do to change the mindset of our politicians and also the mindset of Zambians so that we can develop as a nation? And then the other issue was on diversification. We can diversify into mining, agriculture, and tourism. But I've got an issue. As long as we don't harness our mineral resources, we will never develop, because even the money we need to diversify into agriculture and mine and tourism, we need to get it from mining. And then all the money, all the dollar sales of the mines, they are going abroad. What would you do as the president of Zambia? Because I've worked for big companies. I worked for BP Africa in South Africa, worked in Treasury. Not at one time did BP repatriated the sales. We only repatriated the profits after declaring, after the financial accounts. So why is it the mines? Why are shops like ShopRite and all these African companies, they repatriate the sales the following day? What would you do as a president to stop that? Lastly, but not the least, SMEs. All the big, like I live in the UK, 59% of the people in the UK are employed by SMEs, and the government does everything to support the SMEs. But in Zambia, we expect the multinationals to create jobs instead of SMEs. What would you do about SMEs? I rest my case.
Thank you very much. I've got a queue already piling up. Hello, caller. Tell us where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mwamba.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Dolika Banda. We've enjoyed your submissions. I have a few questions to ask. First of all, I would like to find out the thoughts of Madam Dolika with regards to how President Hakainde Hichilema has treated the Lungu family during this time of the impasse, as well as the demise of Dr. Edgar Lungu before he traveled to South Africa, and what is happening with the court case, number one. Number two, she's speaking very eloquently, more as intellectual, but I would like to find out if she's able to relate with Jerabos and the young girls in Kanyama, in the compounds, who are struggling. Has she found her way to campaign at the grassroots level? And number three, would Madam Dolika Banda be able to accept as a VIP or as maybe a support to other candidates, or does she really want to be the president of Zambia? Because we have identified her in the comment section as a credible candidate for vice presidency. And we are welcoming you to the opposition because we are united as the opposition. When are we going to see you at the grassroots level campaigning? We are here to welcome you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mwamba.
Good evening.
This is Sencho Banda.
Yes, Mr. Banda. Sencho Banda, former MP, yes.
Yes, good evening, Madam Dolika Banda.
Yes, she can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, basically for me, I was listening to the interview. I think I just raised three issues, I think, which Zambians should watch out as we go for elections. What kind of leadership we want to take Zambia forward, as it were. Firstly, she raised that she's come into politics for the love of the people. That is very key, because there's every leader at the summit of power must be able to lead with empathy. Secondly, she raised the issue of giving back to the community. that should be at the core of any leader. And giving back for a leader at the summit of power is about acknowledging the living realities of people. For example, today we've got 2 tales of lived reality in Zambia. We are being told, oh no, inflation has reduced from 23 to 12%. But what good is it, the inflation when family go without? We've been told that actually the economy has grown by 5.5%, 5.2%, the economic growth. But if that does not translate, that progress does not translate to the food on the table, dinner plates in the kitchen, that means nothing to the common Zambian. So giving back is acknowledging things that are not okay. And when you acknowledge, you have to do something about it. I think these are some of the issues, even as we go towards election, is to look at a leadership who they've got ideas, clarity of thought, and they've got the interests of Zambians at heart. And as such, we welcome her in the opposition, and we work together as even we look forward to 2026 to ensure that we have a leadership which will espouse the interest of Zambians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador, and good evening, Ms. Banda. My name is Nancy. I'm calling you from Zambia. Congratulations on taking this step. I think it's a very big step. Wanting to contest as president, a woman, and of your credentials, I think it's a good and welcome thing. My only concern is that from the time that you had announced that you want to contest the Zambian presidency, especially on social media, I think if you look at the reaction mostly, as much as you are a well-accomplished Zambian, and even so many people who seem to be very active on the social media space didn't know you. So you coming out from the corporate world, it seems like more like fewer of us knew you. And then you are coming out from that world, coming into the political stage and the political space of Zambia. You have to sell yourself so well in a very short time. Elections are less than a year away. You are not yet, you don't know which party you are going to stand on, whether you're forming your own or you're joining an existing one. I think right now, for you to get that traction, you need to sell yourself with a message which is so hard-hitting that it is unforgettable. What I'm picking from your explanation so far is not very... it's kind of vague, similar to what we probably got from the current president. You know, we really need to know the how. You can have these ideas, say we should do this, we should go in this direction, but exactly how are we going to do it? This election is going to be one of ideas, really, and you really need to have that message. People in Zambia are now really paying attention to the how. Someone cannot just tell us what they will do. We want the how. Like on the mining sector, I have not really gotten a very clear direction from you on how exactly you would make sure that we retain money. In the tourism sector, when you say no more of these businesses should be owned by Zambians, yes, that's the what, but the how really, I think we need those unique ideas that you may have to really come out, because time is not with you and you are contesting against the ideas of people who have been in the political space for a long time, and they are really selling their points like the how so well. So I would advise that you really work on that, and the more engagements we are having, please do tell us the how in detail so that we see the uniqueness of your candidacy. And I wish you all the best in your aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have chock-a-block back-to-back callers. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Wamwamba, and good evening, Madam Dolika Banda. I'm Honorable Given Katuta Mwiwa, the independent member of parliament for Chengi. And I'm happy to see that more women now are coming on this platform of a political platform. Welcome, ma'am. I just have a quick question. There are some insinuations that you are a UPND project, you intend to come and destabilize the alliance towards the elections. I'm not a very good person when it comes to theories. I've heard a lot of promises, and being an independent MP, I've always fought on my own without any political party in particular, and I think the nation agree with me. And I would like to see more principled women that I'm looking forward to support. I love to support women. Now, when there are these insinuations that you are UPND project and all that drama we're seeing in the media houses from the current president is just for political stage. What's your take on that? What would you say to the Zambians to convince them that you're a principled woman and you've come as a person who is coming to save the nation wholeheartedly? It's not about politics of, I'll call them politics of a belly, whereby somebody will tell you form a political party, and then at the end of the day, or you go and infiltrate in other political parties. I would really love to hear your response on that. Is very, very important, so that Zambians will know that we are having now really women who are like the woman from Chiengi, who has stood her grounds despite what she has faced, but just to stand for the rights of the people of Zambia and to defend the constitution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you very much. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador. Good evening, Madam Dorica.
Good evening.
We love Ms. Sam Lenga from Zambia. I only have one question for Madam Dorica. Would you consider if a proposal came that you contest as vice president for President Hakainde Hichilema? Would you consider that? Thank you.
Okay, so the calls are so many. Maybe let's take the next 3 calls and we allow you to answer, then we come and take another set. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello?
Yes, caller.
This is James. I'm calling you from Zambia.
Yes, James.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mano Mwambandi, Madam Dorica. I have one simple and straightforward question for Madam Dorica. How do we join you as the young people of Zambia to work with you? Do you have any personal aid, campaign manager, or offices, or anything? Thank you very much, Aunt Dorica.
Thank you. Let's take... Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and kindly be brief.
Okay, good evening, Mamamba.
Good evening.
Yes, I will remain anonymous as well.
Yes, anonymous.
I just want to ask one question to Madam Dorica. What is her take on the ongoing constitution, the Bill 7 that this government want to force on the people, especially that it's got clauses that can bar her from standing, especially that she hasn't identified a vehicle where she's supposed to go 2 months before nominations. What does that take, and what is she doing about it, maybe with other people, so that this cannot even see the light of day into Parliament? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, callers. Let's take a few more, then we allow Miss Dolika Banda to answer. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Wamunkonge, calling from West London.
Wamunkonge mlishani.
Tushawa mutende walishani wa Dolika.
Yo, batira tuwalife bwino. Landeni po bwangu.
Okay, ni advise wa mwambaile isakuli imwe aba PF bonse. Mashuwe nalala ndakwena, mashuwe yakankala sana.
How we are hosting ba Dolika mwala leta shanifia ba PF. Ipusheni wa Dolika ma question.
badolika inene fyakubepusha nchikwete because bali loud and clear nomba pechirefu aikwa ni basi yakubabika mwaze proper driver so badolika takuri ubwafyo buli bonse tapano opening epushanga nambo kwipushanisha ndechitafya ma contradictions because so barondorwere bali kwata experience bali bomba na abantu bali bomba na ma organizations bali bomba ne fyapsana so kwambo kwipusha kwatirimbi awo ni shinara shupafi nomba kuru baliro ama politics abingiremo efona chirumbuira abo awo mukwaika babule ko bama ababumfye ko imatiri abamaye ukubika pali tonse awo mwandini awo katwishi lurumbi dolika pali tonse dolika pali green awo nikatwishi so ba PF bekari panshi sana panto ama injuries mu PF yafura abo bamaye kuti babani bakarubura abo rete PF yari kwatama structures tonse yari kwatama structures kuba bura fero kubabika pamuro na dolika yadira chisuma mukwaye.
I love that. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
This is Mumbipiri Bamwamba. I'm calling from Chongwe.
Quite Honorable Mumbipiri, welcome to the program. Ninkwatanga shienu Dolika Banda pakashingani mulamu wenu.
Uyo mwana wandi. Bayama bakwe ba Rupiah Banda. Badi balume banda and still remains as a husband to me. Madam Dorika, how are you?
No, she's very well. She can hear you.
Okay. If you remember me, I used to live across the road to Sunningdale. And it's Rupiah Banda who encouraged me. I didn't even realize. He was always telling me, you make a very good member of parliament from Munali because you are all over. But Dorika, the plea I want to make to you is, why can't we work together as opposition? Ndaba pameneti dilomba. We have one common enemy, which is the UPND. Look at how young people are dying from cancer. Have you ever gone to the cancer hospital? I lost one of my daughter because kumwe stulanda tinina tafyala mwanda. This was my elder sister's child. When their mother and father died, it's me who was looking after them. But the abana balesunga ba Rupiah Banda abafumine kukitwe. This is one of their friends. Died 3 months ago. Diagnostic, even near cancer. It's taking so long. We only realized that she had cancer in Shirimu 4th stage. Within a short time, that young girl died. Nina bijunga mwamu ipusha. They know my children very, very well. I'm pleading with you. Let us work together. And I think these men, they have really disappointed us. If you can come and join all of us as opposition, as women, we can even come out with one voice to say, Ababa umerekentu baledwa, because they are so selfish. Each and every one of them want to be a president. Imwe, Ine, Bajin Kapata, Chela Moche, Brenda Nyirenda. We are so many. Kuttuapange chakosa. I'm bleeding. On Saturday, as I conclude Bamwamba, twalem kushikomo echiwakwa Brenda Nyerenda, and we are all there. Should we be reduced to just dancing and praising these men who are not being considerate for us? Yes, we have had disappointments with women, especially that the highest institution of governance are being run by women. Let's talk about parliament. Mwalitarire mwamonapo Bana Lumangoza, our first deputy speaker, abakwaisa ba Catherine Namugala. Mwadi bamwene baya anywhere amatanta ya dipanse. What we have seen with our current speaker, Bamaiwa Nazalomis, that's my mother. The way she's doing things, is it the right thing? The Constitutional Court, I can name them. Look at the people who worked with your father, Rupiah Banda. How much education did they have? In fact, abantu batwe bati, former women, because of lack of education, that's why we can't get high positions in governance. Nombanga Mwakwata, these three institutions I've named. What hope do we have? Let me congratulate as I conclude Bamwamba. Kariaka mwana keswa kava pa social media kasolochi. And I wish I can find her. I'm so proud of her because abantu bamonati, anybody who has a degree, who has a diploma, who has a doctorate, then they are educated. They forget that we had Bana Kankasa, Mary Fulano, with a humble education, and they contributed to this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayo. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for your contribution. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello?
Hello, caller. Yes, you are online. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mamba. This is Concerned Citizen. I'm calling from Lusaka.
Yes, Concerned Citizen.
Yes. Auntie Dolika. First of all, let me call you Auntie Dolika. If you're listening to the previous caller, he's just branded you and called you Auntie Dolika. I think you need to use that moniker to help drive your brand as you go forward, because I think we all have our aunties, and we all have a sense of comfort when we hear our auntie, the name of an auntie. Just to my main point, I don't know if you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
All right. There was a striking statistic that I saw recently, and I researched it to confirm. A statistic that said that our GDP had been overtaken in the southern region by Zimbabwe. In fact, Zimbabwe's GDP from as recently as 2023 has overtaken Zambia. They're on 35 billion, and we are sitting at 28 billion. Now, I'm happy for Zimbabwe, but it also saddens me. It also saddens me that a country with such a traumatic history economically, with different currencies, with heavy, massive sanctions, with political unrest, is doing much better than us. Where have we gone wrong? I looked at the economic strategies that they use to diverse the economy, how they've taken advantage of the benefits that are accruing in lithium in the extractive industries, and how they've grown. My major concern is this. If and when you decide to take the mantle, I think you need to give us a clear vision of where this country is going to go. I'm tired of rhetoric. I'm tired of people saying they're going to bring 50 kwacha worth of a bag of mealie meal. I'm tired of people who think that spending 20 billion kwacha in CDF in an economy that such as ours is significant. I'm tired of people who dream small. So my only advice and my only plea to you is stick to your claim. I've heard you say dream big. Let's see the dream big, the dreaming of big, and the big ambition and the big vision. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me take the last caller, and then we revert to you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening.
Zulu calling from Lusaka, Zambia.
Yes, Mr. Zulu.
Madam Dorica, I greet you, and I've heard part of your presentation. I joined in late, and let me say you are well spoken and well researched. I just have a few concerns here and there. Madam Dorica, I remember President Sata during the time of MMD, when Dean Mungomba and others broke away from MMD and decided to form their own political parties. He really cautioned them about timing, to say, we've just formed government, how do you break away and form your own party? So I would like to ask about timing, Madam Dorica. Is the timing okay? How well prepared are you, looking at the fact that elections are just around the corner? Then, I don't know which vehicle, the SPV that you are going to use, because we were told that you are going to stand under President Andy Ford Mayere's as party. I don't know if you have tackled that one. Pardon me if I'm repeating it. Now that there was a fallout, a seemingly fallout, I don't know if you are going as independent or you join the already existing parties. Lastly, Madam Dorica, I know others have touched on it, but we always ask the million-dollar question here. Are you ready to lead? And are you ready to be led in the event that you don't lead? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For our callers, just pause. Let's allow Ms. Dorica Banda to answer that question. Someone has, some people are asking even rhetorical, very, very funny questions. Someone has asked, why isn't she Dorica Banda? They anglicized, did she Africanize Dorica? Where did Dorica come from? So there's funny questions like that. But take your time to answer to what you can.
Thank you so much. I think I'll start from the last few questions. First of all, it is and has always been Dolica with an L. It is my grandmother's name, my mother's mother, and I didn't change it in any way, shape, or form. I think that change just comes from my Bemba side of the family, who always insist on calling me Mwana wesu Dorica. So, but it is Dolica. The question of, and I'm not answering them in any order, and I'm not going to cluster them, but thank you to all the callers for the attention given to this conversation. The question of VP, at this point, let me just say, in a race, there are many runners, and there is only one winner. And so that question, I think, will be answered when the time comes, if it is a decision to be made. To say, is one going to be VP blindly, I think would not be doing myself a service and would be doing the Zambian people a disservice. So I'm running for presidency, and for now we leave it at that. In terms of the timing and the vehicle, which is related, we are working on that. On getting the right vehicle. It has to be the right vehicle. It can be opposition. It may be, and I hear the pleas on opposition. One of the things that concerns me and has concerned me for some time, which also influenced the decision to say, okay, let maybe somebody have a look at this and try to come in, is because, quite frankly, the opposition is in disarray. It is in disarray. And so one would have to really think where the values, the desire, the vision, everything that I would like to see and stand for is aligned. And if there is alignment there, then definitely an opposition party would make sense. And it's not just opposition for opposition. It is because we want to change the situation in which we are. Somebody talked about rhetoric. We are all tired of rhetoric. I am tired of rhetoric. And so could be opposition, could be, as some of the other callers have said, I think it was McGiven, is an independent, and proudly so, and doing what she needs to do. So that's on those last ones. On the Zim GDP, I can only say two things. Number one, many of you who know Zimbabwe will know that Zimbabweans own business in Zimbabwe. They own mines, they own banks, they own construction companies. So they already have that ownership, and the self-reliance piece, because of the sanctions, have actually helped them to think about solutions that are long-standing within their own country. This has been going on for years. Zimbabwe has had ownership in its own business for years and years and years. We know. Even they've come to Zambia with their businesses. So local ownership at every level of the economy is extremely important. And a sense of self-reliance. A sense of self-reliance, I think, is something that Zimbabweans have known for many, many years, even since the Ian Smith days. On, I think, joining the opposition, my auntie, Vamumbi Piri, yes, we are family, indeed. Again, I have to say, I think we must be clear that we are going into this. I am going into this because I don't feel that this country and the majority of its people are being well served. As I said, the forward-looking announcements made yesterday give us some hope, but we have to just take this journey on. And for me, this is not about individuals. This is about the leadership as a cohort. We have to change the way this country is being led. I hear you. I'm sorry for the cancer situation. As you know, my aunt died of cancer. Many other people in the family suffer from cancer. And we need to fix, not just for cancer, we need to fix for health in general. So the old hospitals that we have, we tend to build new. As Zambians, we like to build new. When I say Zambians, I mean once we're in leadership, because those become the projects that we show. Let us fix. Levy is not long old, but it's falling apart. There are certain things in there that are not working. To bring x-ray machines. There's a woman who was walking with a baby on her back in Chipata from the Chipata General Hospital. They sent her to the newer hospital, and even there they didn't have the x-ray machine. So nobody even bothered to call and say, is your x-ray machine working? So there is money that we can spend to upgrade even our existing hospitals. That road, the money that we spent in front of UTH, if even half of that had gone into the hospital itself. The prioritization of where we spend our money. I know infrastructure is important. I don't question that at all. But health, education, if we don't fix these, for whom are you building that infrastructure? If our children are not healthy enough, our adults are not healthy enough, for whom are you building that infrastructure? And again, I'm not saying it should not be built, but I think there needs to be a prioritization of some sort that serves, as I keep saying, we want to build a Zambia that works for all Zambians. And so there's some prioritization that needs to be done there. I respect the women in our history, and that's why in the statement I made earlier, I spoke about our founding fathers and our founding mothers. I'm only able to stand here today and make this, what some people call crazy declaration, because of people like you, Vamumbi Piri, people like you, Given Milakatuta, people like Benejin Kapat. It is you who have allowed me to stand on your shoulders in order to make this kind of a decision. So it's not now that women are coming into politics. Women have been in our politics since, as the Nigerians say, when and when. They've been shoulder to shoulder with our men. So I respect those women. And again, it's joining opposition.
Just a minute, Honorable Dolika. There was an assertion by Honorable Given Katuta from Chiengi. Are you a pawn? Are you a candidate for someone? Are you being played in this heat, in this contested process? I think give some thought to that.
That's where I was coming to. That's why I even mentioned her name. The answer, am I a project for anyone? I am not a project for UPND or a pawn for UPND, and I am not, as has been reported in the papers, Rupiah Banda project. Let's give the man some respect. He died, we're going on 4 years ago now. And really, from the grave, he can orchestrate something like this. I am who I am. You never heard of me with UPND. You never heard of me with MMD. I have decided to run this race on my own. I'm 63 years old. I make decisions for me. Even RB, were he alive, would tell you, yes, she discusses things with me, but she's going to do whatever she wants to do. I'm not a pawn for anybody. I will not be used by anybody. This is such a serious, serious responsibility that I'm trying to undertake. And that also answers to some of the questions around, are you only wanting to be president? I'm running for the top job here. I'm not being a pawn for anybody. I want to make that very, very clear. Please, thank you for this platform for me to be able to do that. Bill 7, I think these things we will definitely have to tackle. I'm not a supporter of it. I believe people should be allowed to say what they want to say, where they want to say it. If they choose to say things in a rude manner, in a manner that doesn't achieve anything, that is their individual choice. But I think stifling people's ability to be creative, to speak their minds, to challenge, that is not a very healthy situation at all. And we should avoid this. I also believe we should avoid introducing bills at the 11th hour prior to an election. What does it do? It diverts people's attention away from the real issues into a debate about something that might happen, should happen, shouldn't happen. So I'm not at all, not just for Bill 7, I am not for introducing new legislation in the evening, in the PM hours of a term, of a presidential term. Young people, Auntie Dolika, yes, I'm glad you said auntie. As I have no children, and so everybody is my child. I believe in the youth. I believe in young people. And I strongly believe we must provide different fora for them to be able to thrive in their areas of expertise. That's why earlier on I spoke about encouraging entrepreneurship. Even as we're talking about creating jobs, we must encourage entrepreneurship so that people become owners. When people are owners, they are vested. How does one do that? Some of the examples.
The issue of elitism. Do you speak local language? Someone asked, you must have heard. Can you answer your next question in local language? Because they don't seem to know that you can speak local language.
mwenzoni kosha zawana sasa tichitena utyani ava vana kuli vintu vosiyana siyana soti nikuti Zambia ili special kuti tiyambe uchita create vintu zvetisaziva ni vyaro vinyinji pamba kuchita tete titute pa Rwanda apa olo mZimbabwe mamene olo kwamene ku South Africa kuli ma programs yavana asaza. Number 1, kuva you bring them into a program kale kwenze maholofeya tenzoseka. That was the idea of welfare centers, is to have centers where people can go and excel in their excellence. So what can we do? We can work with the banking sector, which is, as a banker, an intermediary, to ask them to give special access to finance, for example, for young entrepreneurs. It may require some government guarantees, but I don't believe in anything free. So you have to structure these things in a way that makes sense for the bank, makes sense for the entrepreneur, makes sense for the bank. We have to help them create industries. How? Create research centers. We used to have NRDC for agriculture. Let's create more of those places so that young people can go and in a structured environment can experiment with their products, can also find a market within those products. We have the agricultural show. The agricultural show should at some point be also a place where you showcase young entrepreneurs, recognize them, help them, put them in touch with the different bigger industries. In agriculture, put them in touch with the ShopRites or even the ShopRites. Ask them, a certain quota of your product must not just be from Zambia, buy local. It must be from a generation of youth X that you must help to supply and give markets. So there are different ways of approaching these youngsters. Open export markets for them. Have maybe a vehicle that exports around the region. We export eggs across Kasumbalesa border, as we've all heard. Do something around that border maybe that involves the youth around that border. So there's a number of things you can do with young people. But I think the biggest one is just number one, giving them a marketplace. Number two, giving them access to finance. Number three, giving them the courage and the confidence to go out there. And again, I say this, we don't need to repeat anything here or reinvent the wheel. These models are out there in other countries.
Thank you. Let's take the last cause so that then we can come and close. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Endita.
Yeah, tunati mukuba anonymous.
Mkwaiwa anonymous landeni.
Yes, for clarity, but she's not a pawn for anyone. But just to amplify her justification, we would like to understand from her one, what is her position in terms of the proceedings that have led to the delay of the burial of the late President ACL? I mean, how does she assess that issue vis-a-vis the family and what the president, the current president, is doing? And two, of course, while she has the right to just contest and do whatever she feels like in terms of contesting, and she can get our support. But in the meantime, there is a cry from the opposition. They are saying, our enemy is common. While there is confusion, is she willing, at least she should build up on that as we go, because we've run out of time. Literally speaking, these guys have about 7 months to campaign before the general elections. Therefore, she can't just pop up and increase the number of political parties with a view that, as we now seem to form, that she'll split the votes. She's getting support, but if she splits the votes, then what are we doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's take as many calls as possible before we allow her. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you very much. I'll remain anonymous. I called in earlier.
Oh, okay.
I have some questions for Ma'am Dolika.
Yes.
What do you make of the corruption and the fight against corruption in the country? How would you do it? Do you think the persecutions that we are seeing today, how would you handle them different? And you don't want to fail. You want this to work. How are you going to address corruption? I listened to your program on Hot FM, and you highlighted how Zambia is faring when it comes to corruption. What would you possibly do different than the current government is doing? You also highlighted how you left ZCCM. Why was it important for you to tell us that you left and you did not want to be the pawn in the game? Why didn't we hear about it when you left? Because according to your program on Hot FM, you left some time back, but we only got to hear about it today. How long have you been aspiring to run for president? Thank you very much.
Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello, good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening.
Honorable Mwamba. My name is Dr. Judy Diane Njovu.
Yes, Dr. Njovu.
Yeah, I would like just to ask Aunt Dorika just two questions. The first question is, what's your game plan? Because I am hearing of a lot of ideas that you have, And by experience, we know that being idealistic does not necessarily translate into being effective in terms of leadership and governance. We know that the incumbent was very idealistic. He told us about, dealing with load shedding and so on and so forth, and employment and the like. But we see that ideas do not necessarily translate into workable plans. And then, if you have any game plan, how does it play into the current opposition front? Because these things build up. It's one thing for us just to be to come on the scene as what they refer to as more of a situational leader, somebody that comes about because there's a situation at hand. And I believe that's where we've been making a mistake as a country, because whenever there's a situation that requires to be submerged, somebody just comes about as a situational leader, but we don't see that coherency, and we don't see them becoming what one would refer to as a more of a leadership in governance. And this is where the problem comes in, because I want to believe that if you are going to be president, you are not going to be president, from a very individualized place. You are president because whatever you do is playing out on so many other platforms, and the others are able to holistically, find themselves in whatever you are trying to achieve. Thank you so very much, Honorable Mamba. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think let's be fair to my guest. Maybe we should let that to be the only question. I've got a lot of text messages, but I don't think we have time to go through them. I'll invite Honorable Dolika Banda to finish her thoughts and to give us her closing remarks.
We bring you guests that challenge the narrative, unveil what...
Okay, this man insists he should be the last caller. You are very lucky. Can you be the last caller? Make your contribution and tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador. I think I'll remain anonymous.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I just want to repeat a question that was asked earlier, and just to see if Auntie Dolika can actually answer that question. The question is, how do you feel about how the Lungu family has been treated? Look at what has happened since our former president Edgar Chagwa died on the 5th of June, and we haven't yet buried our former president. Where do you stand? What do you feel about that? And have you taken time maybe to visit, the former first lady, the widow? And secondly, are you willing to work with a patriotic front? Should they approach you? Are you willing to work with them in any capacity, maybe as a presidential candidate or maybe as a running mate? In whatever capacity, the question is about working with them. Are you willing to do that? I think I'd really love to hear a response to those questions. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mwamba. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had an amazing program, and the goodness with the callers is they provide interaction, and this is what makes the program, very enriched, because then people feel they have a say. To the many callers, I apologize, but I think we have a view of what people wanted to say to you and ask you. The issue regarding the late president, have you studied it? Have you taken time and thoughts about it, and what could be an issue on that?
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And I don't know if I could be heard, but I wanted to apologize to the callers whose questions I didn't get to. I've absorbed a lot of suggestions. I've got the how question. It's a big question out there, and we will continue to unveil the hows. Before I close, let me just go to the one that's been asked a lot, and also just to allay the fact that I'm not here to split the opposition. I don't look at it as a common enemy. I look at it as trying to do the best that we possibly can for this country. And so if opposition is the vehicle through which to go, then I'm open to that. It's a dialogue that I must start reaching out to people to see how it lands. But of course, that also depends on whether they want you or they don't want you. On the ECL issue, every time this issue comes up, it's with a heavy heart that I have to discuss it. And I'm discussing it now as a concerned Zambian, not as a presidential aspirant, but as a concerned Zambian. And I come at this with the position that there are two institutions involved, because the family is an institution, probably one of the most sacred institutions we have on earth. And in my belief, in my upbringing, something like this happens. The family, as most of us Zambians believe, they are the ones who are closest. They are the ones who are hurting the most. They are the ones who knew this man well enough to know what he would have wanted or not wanted. On the other hand, we have the state that wants to show that it is giving respect to the deceased. But the state is also our leader, Asogoledi, Vakateka. I'm saying this because it falls at the presidential level. I think this decision making falls at that level. Regardless of what we say the legal system is, the person here that makes that choice or that decision has got to be our head of state. And I would just say, you have tried. You have tried. You have shown the Zambian people you would like to accord the deceased a state funeral, and the respect that the office that he occupied would have required. However, we have a soul that is in limbo here for 3 months, more than 3 months already. At some point, somebody has got to take the higher seat. Somebody has got to say, let's put this thing to rest. Everybody has seen this side of it, that side of it. Mukuleni, Achikulide, is the one who's supposed to bow. Even when a child is playing truant, at some point it is the elder person who says, enough now, you do what you want to do, learn your lesson, I've given you the guidance, I've told you X, Y, Z, I will be here when you're ready to come back. I am a parent, I am a father or a mother. So my view, my personal view, and it's very hurtful for us as Zambian to see this back to and fro. It's between two institutions, as I said. So if the institution which is closest to the deceased insists that they want to go this way, give them the leeway to go that way. You've demonstrated already to the rest of the country willingness to give this man what the state respect would have accorded him. It's a very heavy subject. It also puts our country in a very bad light. Very bad light. We are actually the laughing stock, not just of the region. Globally, people are saying, what in heaven's name is going on here? So let's think beyond ourselves. Let's think beyond the individual. Let's consider the grieving family. That's my view on that one. Corruption, just very quickly, digitization. Digitization. Take our hands out of the cookie jar. Whether it's the passport office, the registration office, the driver's license offices, the motor, whatever it is, the borders, let us digitize. When you're going through the border, you're bringing a new car, you put in your own information, you put in the VIN number, that VIN number will spew out the value of the car. It is digitized. Let's just use technology. Let's take our hands out of the cookie jar. That's just one of the first things that can be done. And the technology exists. There was a time many years ago when Zambia tried to digitize the ZRA offices, which are now to some extent done, as well as the customs offices. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And I would spend less time on chasing so-called corruption charges of public or former public officers, which money we will never recover. How much money, somebody should do an analysis on this. How much money has Zambia ever recovered from past presidents and their entourages compared to the amount of money that we spend chasing that money? That's on corruption. On ZCCM, somebody said, why are we hearing about it today? I've spoken about ZCCM. I have spoken about ZCCM. This is not the first time. And the decision to run has been something that I started thinking about many years ago. It's just it is galvanized and it has come to the fore now, which also informs to the timing. We will try to use the most expedient way of getting into the act. And as I said before, that may involve partnering with opposition. That I would welcome, as long as we are like-minded and aligned, both of those things. And alignment, like-minded is vision, alignment is how you get there. So as long as those two things come together, yes, it's something that I'm definitely not throwing out of the door. At the end of the day, my fellow Zambians, I want to see a Zambia that works for all Zambians. Whether it's through me as president or through somebody else as president, we have to get our country to the point where we are not a minority in our own country. Right now, we're a minority in our own country. And that is not an acceptable position to be for a country as wealthy as Zambia is. Wealthy in resources, wealthy in minds, wealthy in intellectual. So that's that. And somebody also said, but how? There's many questions as to the how, because there's many things to deal with. But I think at the first instance, the people we put in and around the executive, those people will have to be people who fit a certain profile in accordance with what we want to achieve. I think one of the challenges we have is that in many cases, too many cases, we end up putting a campaign team and supporters at campaign level into the administration of our country. And not in all cases are those two the best way to fill positions, if I can put it that way. We have to get the technical people, the right people, to run some of our critical ministries as much as possible. It should be the exception where it is not somebody who is well-versed with that particular position who is put in that position. And then there must be a very, very good reason for that. And then there's accountability. Those of you who know Kagame, his ministers have been given KPIs, they've been given productivity numbers, they've been given targets to reach, and they go and meet him. Used to be initially every 2 weeks. I think now he's extended it because of things are running kind of steady state. But they have to go and say, I did this, I did this, I did this. I didn't do this because. And if he gives you the because and you still fail, then he will replace you ruthlessly. But the people benefit because the country runs, whether you call him a dictator or you don't. The country, Rwanda works. Rwanda works.
Yeah.
So thank you all very much for your time. Thank you for indulging me to share my dreams. And I look forward to us changing this country together, not one step at a time, but one big leap at a time.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Rwanda Works, I might not approve their human rights practices, but Rwanda Works, I've been to Kigali several times, and you're just amazed at the cleanliness of the city and how things work. If we improve, I think, on human rights practices, it really can be a good country. Do you have your last word?
My last word is, whichever way this race goes, I want every girl and every boy that is either listening to this or through the parents that are listening to this to aggressively take ownership for our rights in this country, for our status as citizens of this country, and through doing that, be unashamed and unabashedly seek accountability. Somebody earlier talked about, promises have been made that have not been adhered to, but we don't loudly, openly challenge those. Challenge things. It's your right. It's our right. So I hope at least the Dolika Banda coming out of corporate into politics, and we need a whole nother session on that and why that is even a conversation. I hope that this demonstrates to people that this is our country, in as much as it's our country, all of us, including investors who come here, others who settle in this country. But Zambians have got to feel the beauty, the joy, the benefits of coming from a country that has copper, cobalt, nickel, manganese, sugilite, etc., and has forests and has rivers, waterfalls, over 100, I think 90 some plus waterfalls across this country. We've got to feel that we're a part of this train and a part of this economy, not sweeping streets, not children having 100 people in class learning from an exercise book when kindergarten kids are learning from iPads in other countries. We've got to take ownership for this country, and there are ways, there are means, and it's all very legitimate, and we have to challenge the norms. I'm challenging the norm right now. Challenge the norm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you sincerely for coming out on our platform and for sharing your bold dream and vision. There should be nothing wrong with dreaming big. There should be nothing. We've criminalized ambitions in our country. In fact, if you are ambitious, they even lock you up, they torture you. We are doing something wrong to our country. And you bring that fresh of air to the politics. And I personally would like to welcome you. Let us drive politics that are based on issues and on changing and directing our country. You have a lot to think about. The vehicle, the participation in the opposition, and your policies and big ideas that you are promoting. I think your colleagues in the opposition will welcome you. That I think I can guarantee you. It's a little bit messy. We are at a transition as a country. There's a baton being passed on by the old generation to the new generation. There's a whole lot of things that have gone wrong in the last 6 years. But I still hope that our country can be better. And you've joined that path. So I'd like to thank you sincerely for coming to this program. And I'm still inviting you, when the vision is concretized, when the vehicle is designed, and when you are flagging off your campaign, I'd like you to come back and share your new thoughts about your new journey. We wish you well, and God bless you. We didn't touch on many things. For me, I think it was an introductory program for the country to know you. You are well, you've achieved so much, but our country doesn't know you. So it was a platform, not an interrogation. So I let you speak, and I think you did very, very well. For the subsequent interviews, I think, people can ask about ZCCMIH, why you left ZCCMIH, family matters and other things. But for me, I felt that we need to profile our country and then project it to where it should go. That is what is utmost important to me and this platform. So God bless you. We wish you well in your endeavors. And to our dear viewers, we're hosting Dolika Banda. She's a presidential aspirant. She has confirmed it on this program. And she's running the race. She's very clear. She's running the race. We only have 10 months. How she will do it, we'll learn in time. I saw on the platform that people are already lending hands. Others want to form branches. Others want to know where your office is. Others want to see how they can help you. That's how it should be. For the opposition, are you ready to lead? Are you ready to be led? Meaning, come in alliance with us. Let's work together. There is something wrong with our country, and we didn't go personal on anyone, but there's something terribly wrong with our country, and it needs to be corrected. The current direction is not the direction of our country. So God bless you, and to you, our callers who are still calling, I'm so sorry. We could only take so much. So thank you for joining us. And Dolika Banda, I should call you in the Bemba term, Dolika Banda, which your name is. Thank you very much. So to our dear viewers, we'll speak to you later. We have another guest, I think, on Wednesday. We'll let you know.
Amitapendwa ya vintu ifisume vyote bula kwibukisha Kanade potimo Wimbo watemenu wakatongi Awazunga wajita katongi Nagula kwibukisha kateka Kaibuku muna kapona Neseko siove pamenso Yangu ama umemaya Iyaba ume Iyaba ume Kateka wabantu Twakulila lelo twakulila Shika kukonke milimo shove Ale filamba Yena minta pengo shile Deti kume mo pulo dolo la vale Lilo wingi
Ise kwa wingi mwakwete Ise kwa wingi mwakwete Mwaya mwende wino tata wesu
Katushi muchi wakege Wali bomba kale Kama mwatuja tuleli lake Mupanga chiba
Penda Mupanga mwine Oya mwine Ide lalila
Ya mama Ukula bevyo wati dobuingi Ibisebo wapangili obuingi Ukuchinjo lusako kumonebo busaka Mama Utituwa la basiani Chakwa katuse